Welcome to the Retro Network Podcast, the flagship show for the Retro Network Podcast channel. Get ready for the latest pop culture news, interviews, and topical discussions on all that stuff we grew up with and just can't leave in the past. And now, here are your hosts for the Retro Network Podcast, Jason and Mickey.
Yes, Jason and Mickey back for another week on the Retro Network Podcast. How you been doing, Mick?
Pretty good. I'm sitting here right now as we record this with a nice full stomach. It was not Sunday dinner time today. It was Sunday brunch time today. Biscuits and gravy, sausage and eggs, hash browns, all homemade and all so good.
I love a good breakfast for dinner. You know, we'll do that once in a while. Pancakes, the whole nine. Yeah, I can eat breakfast any time of the day.
Yep.
Good stuff. I'm actually sipping on Mellow Yellow Peach.
Ooh, where did you find that at?
I found it at Walmart yesterday. I was like, oh, I'm going to give that a try. I like all things peach.
And how is
that's
it?
Not too bad. You got to try it.
I will keep my eye open for that. I still hadn't got by KFC yet either to try the new Mountain Dew Honey Peach.
Oh, yes.
Whatever it is.
When we were home, I tried that. And that was pretty good too. So I guess they're rivals essentially, and got to throw the peach in there and have everybody try it. When one of them does it, the other one has to do it. Mm-hmm. So that's the way the world works with rivals. The battle of the caffeine. We had the cola wars back then. It's the caffeine wars now.
Well, don't let the fictional side of the internet fool you. Regardless of what you hear, Mountain Dew was invented right here in my town that I live in.
Really?
And so we're big fans of Mountain Dew around here. And we have this huge building downtown that has this massive Mountain Dew mural painted on the side of it.
Nice.
So the home of Mountain Dew. So I've always been more partial to Mountain Dew than Mellow Yellow. So, but I will try the Mellow Yellow Peach though. That does sound pretty good.
Yeah, it was good. You go out and try that. All right. Well, I had a fun little thing come in the mail this week, and I showed you. This was totally at random. I had no idea this was on there, but just for the listeners, I'll give the sound again. Oh, I found it's actually a knockoff Trapper Keeper. It's not the actual brand. It's a binder finder. And I was on eBay. After we going through all this talk with the Trapper Keeper and what to do with my stickers and all that, I'm going to find me one. I'm going to find me a cool one. I was digging through there, and somebody had listed one that was Catwoman from the era of like Batman Returns. I was like, ooh, this looks nice. And the dude wasn't negotiable. I think these things go for like 30, 40, $50 easy now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think my final offer to him was 30, and he hemmed and hawed. And about the time that I put up that last offer, I found one with Batman on the cover, and I got it for $22.
Well, that's really good.
Yeah. So yesterday, I'm waiting, dude. I'm just waiting for this thing to come. I get the notification on my phone. Your package has been delivered. I go to the front door. I go to the back door. I walked around the freaking house. It's nowhere to be found. I go out to the mailbox. There's 2 pieces of mail from the neighbor next door, like stuffed in my mailbox. I'm like, oh, they misdelivered this thing somewhere. I'm never going to find it. Well, I went over to the neighbor's house. They weren't home. I looked at their side door and front door. Not there. And about the time I got back to the house and I'm like really disappointed, a car pulls in the driveway there was a lady from a couple streets over and handed me the box. I'm like,
oh man,
thank you. And she actually worked for the post office, and she was all, I'm going to let these people have it,
Well, I'm going to tell you what, that stuff like that is how you know it was meant to be, that you have that. So
I get it. I open it up. It's in practically mint condition. It does not look like it's been used at all. The icing on the cake from this whole experience is the price sticker that's on the front. Mm-hmm. From Hills.
Yes. Yeah, you texted me a picture of that, and Like I said, icing on the cake, because you were happy with the purchase before, and then that's
Yeah.
just a totally unexpected bonus right there.
Oh, I squealed like a pig. Let me tell you when I saw that. And then that came with it has a coil-bound notebook with the same image that's on the cover. There's a couple price tag stickers on the back of it. And then I got 2 folders on the inside, one with the Batmobile and one with Catwoman, that same image that was on the other binder that I was going for. So, yeah, I'm going to be putting out pictures over probably on Instagram this week, and I'm going to start loading this thing up with stickers immediately. It's glorious.
Call me stupid or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it took me a long time in my life to realize that when it come to a Trapper Keeper, that the folders inside were called trappers. And the binder was the keeper for your trappers, hence the name Trapper Keeper.
Right.
I just thought it was a catchy name.
Well, I guess then that ruins the binder finder knockoff.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's still, I don't care what you call it. It's still great.
Maybe not as good of classic 80s pop culture with a Hills price tag on it, but I found something this week.
Yeah.
Last week we talked about the anniversary, or maybe it was week before last, of Detroit Rock City, the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Just last night, I'm looking through movies, was going to bed, and I was going to put something in to watch. I come across a DVD copy of Detroit Rock City unopened, mixed in, totally out of place on my DVD shelf.
Oh, wow.
And I held it up, and I asked the wife, I said, where did this come from? She said, you bought that several years ago. I'm like, wait, what? I said, I've had this for several years, and I've not opened it and watched it. So on the agenda for tonight is a double feature of Detroit Rock City and Airheads for the wife.
Oh, yes. There you go. Nice.
So not as good as a Trapper Keeper, but I'm excited.
Well, you told me, I don't think this made it into our Outtakes podcast, but you told me you found like, what was it, 2 or 3 copies of Karate Kid?
Yeah. I the cheapo DVD bin at Walmart. Here in my area, it's $3.74.
Mine too. Yep.
So here a couple weeks ago, maybe a month or so back, the kids and I were in there, and I walked by and there's Karate Kid laying on top. And I'm like, oh, I got to have that. So I buy it and come home, and somehow or other, the wife and I get to talking. She's like, that's the 3rd copy of that you've bought. But you can never have too many.
That's true.
And we'll talk about Karate Kid later on in the show.
Oh, nice segue.
Little teaser.
There we go. Yeah. Yeah, we've got a pretty good show lined up for you.
We have a great show.
I was going to say a great show. Yeah. So we better get moving on this because we got a lot of info to pack in here. I did want to just make a quick announcement. We did drop the Outtakes podcast over on Patreon. So go over there, support us. You'll get to hear 30 minutes of us just screwing up and off the wall stories and Mick joking about Kevin Spacey being the next Blade. And I mean, it's great. I mean, it's awesome.
Lots of sounds of us taking a drinks with ice clanking in glasses.
Yes.
Just all kinds of stuff.
Door
being
slamming.
Interrupted by wives and kids and estranged family members, pets.
Hey, before you get started.
Say that at 10 seconds into it. Hey, before we get started.
So that was good stuff. You can go check out that podcast if you're one of our Patreon backers over there. And don't forget, we've got that giveaway that we're going to be doing at the end of the month. So as we're recording this or as it's dropping, you've got a little bit over a week to get that happening over there and get in that drawing. But coming up, we've got our flick chart. What we're going to do on this time, since Mick's been hyping this and he finally got me to rank some of my movies, we're going to do our top 10 movies of the 80s for this week. And I'm sure it'll come up again. We'll be doing the 90s. Maybe we'll go back to the 70s and even newer, just depending on how we roll with this. There could be possibilities for little offshoots like we were talking about in the pre-show. But this is going to be fun, man. Just to kind of go through, see where our movies line up with each other. And then the app is good to where you can also see the ones you have not seen that you've noted. So we might talk about stuff that we haven't seen, maybe our most egregious unseen movies of the 80s as well.
Oh, I've got some very egregious ones on that list.
I probably do too. I haven't actually looked it up yet, but we'll get to that. But first, man, we've got a lot of headlines this week in recurrent events, so let's get right on it. First up this week, from the creators of The Toys That Made Us on Netflix. I'm assuming you've watched that, Mick.
I've watched most of the episodes, yes.
They are doing a spin-off titled The Movies That Made Us.
Excellent.
Nice little segue into our movie topic this week. This was announced at San Diego Comic-Con this year, and each episode will chronicle the production of generational films and look at the impact these films had on pop culture. Season 1 has 4 episodes. Will be Dirty Dancing, Die Hard, Home Alone, and Ghostbusters. So that's coming out this fall on Netflix.
Okay, have you seen the CNN series that Tom Hanks has done? He done the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. Okay, he's also, his next project is the same thing in the vein of his 60s, 70s, 80s, but it's going to be the movies of those decades.
Oh, nice.
So kind of, you get a couple different versions of this fall.
Yeah, I've watched the 80s. I've watched the 90s. I think that's it.
Well, both of those, they're all really good. The 80s and 90s are really good. My favorite was the 60s, though, just because I'm a big documentary and history buff. But the 80s topics they covered in that, good selections.
Yeah.
And the 90s was really good. All this talk on Bill Clinton and the stuff that we actually, I would say you and I lived through. You know, we were alive in the 80s, but those events didn't affect us like the events of the 90s affected us.
Right.
Because of our age and stuff. But yeah, both those are really good. So I'm looking forward to this, both of the movies that made us and Tom Hanks' new project. That'll be something nice this fall while it's cold outside.
Yeah. Oh, gosh, I can't wait for cold. The CNN ones, though, that was great mix. It wasn't just all pop culture. It was technology and politics and just, events of the time. And yeah, it was a really nice mix. I like that. And I thought this list here was good to start. Kind of across the board, You got your family, you got your romantic, you got your action, and you got your like blockbuster, So I think it's a pretty good mix to start. Yep. And moving right along in TV, NBC is developing a TV series based on the 1985 Brat Pack film St. Elmo's Fire. This coming according to Deadline. The updated series will showcase a group of friends struggling with career commitment and the responsibilities of adulthood. I can relate to that. Over the past decade, Sony has tried multiple times to develop a St. Elmo's Fire series with different writers, but has not come to fruition until, I guess, this point. But that movie, I remember watching it probably like once back in the 90s. It just wasn't one of the Brat Pack ones that I've connected with over the years. I probably like the song more than I like the movie,
I don't know that I've ever watched any of the movie. I don't remember it if I have.
Yeah. There's just so many, I would rather go back and watch The Breakfast Club or, one of those, what they call the Brat Pack, movies versus St. Elmo's Fire.
Yeah.
So, all right, we'll see what happens with that. Disney Plus now is in talks with Ewan McGregor. I think it was actually confirmed today to do an Obi-Wan Kenobi TV series for the new Disney Plus app. This will be the first time since 2005. I can't believe it's been since 2005. 14 years since the, episode 6. This sounds interesting to me. I'm good with that. And, I kind of tend to think of Obi-Wan Kenobi as, the Alec Guinness version from the original trilogy. Mm-hmm. And with Ewan getting older, I'm good with this. Go for it,
Yeah, I'm wondering what the plot for this will be. My personal taste would be a series that fills in between the original trilogy and, the prequel. So when he left and went to Tatooine, was in hiding or so, what was that journey like that led him to that point? How was he coping with life after all the Jedi were slaughtered? And
that's probably what it's going to be. Are you going to watch the new Mandalorian series?
Well, I can't make no promises, but I'm going to give it a shot, and we'll see how it is.
Yeah, I'm curious about that one too. My middle son is just, his favorite character is Boba Fett, so this ought to be kind of in that realm, seeing that same kind of design for the characters and everything.
Yeah, and that's perfect because you can take that type of character where it's a bounty hunter and they're going to be traveling everywhere.
Right.
You can expand the Star Wars canon. You can dabble in existing stuff. You're not locked in. Like if it was a series on Yoda, you're getting a Jedi series, this and that. They can make this show, from episode to episode, be whatever they want it to be.
Yeah.
So that's a great concept for a series, and I'm looking forward to giving it a shot.
Mm-hmm.
I got to imagine that it will, just being Star Wars, it will appeal to me at least enough to watch the whole first season, because I imagine they'll drop it like everything does on Netflix. You'll get all 13 episodes at one time, and even if it's not great, you can blow through all those in 2 weeks and be done with it.
I think actually the Mandalorian is going to be on ABC, so I think it's going to be like a week-to-week series.
Oh, well, originally,
I could be wrong.
I've not read about it since they first announced it. When they first announced it, it was going to be exclusive to the Disney streaming service. It was in its early development stages. It and Loki, they announced kind of at the same time as going to be on that service, but maybe it's picked up enough steam where they're like, hey, we need to put this on broadcast.
Yeah, it could be. I'm trying to find right now, but that's one of the things I loved about watching the Clone Wars was all the different planets and stuff when they were huddled around that group of bounty hunters for a while and exploring all of those. That looked no, I am mistaken. It is going to be on Disney Plus. Yeah. So, but yeah, that was one of the things that really appealed to me. Bosk, and even when they had Boba Fett as a kid on there, and that whole group going and doing things here and there was really, really fun. Okay, moving along. We've been talking about Crisis on Infinite Earths, and just saw today there's a fan push now, including a tweet that came out, I think just yesterday, from Kevin Conroy, who he said is going to play Bruce Wayne, to cast Mark Hamill as the Joker. Oh. How cool would that be?
He played the Trickster in the old Flash series from the 90s.
Right, and he's, I think, played him a couple times, at least from what I was reading, on Arrow or one of those Flash or one of those in the in this universe. So he's done both. He was in the 90s and he was also in the newer series as the Trickster. So I don't know. Having him do I just love his Joker in the Batman animated series, and how fun would it be just to have them do a scene together? It would be tripping your mind, like you said before. I do have a schedule now for when the Crisis on Infinite Earths is going to happen. It's going to start Sunday, December 8th with Supergirl, then continue Monday, December 9th with Batwoman. I'm curious about that show, actually. Tuesday, December 10th, then on The Flash. Then it goes to January the 14th with Arrow, and then I guess on that same day, the 14th, with DC's Legends of Tomorrow. So it's going to be across all of those shows starting in early December. So yeah, I'm curious. I think, is that Legends of Tomorrow only on the DC app, or is that on CW?
No, I'm pretty sure it's on broadcast on CW or something.
Okay.
Because they dropped the seasons of it on one of these streaming services we have after the season's over. So yeah, it's been on broadcast.
Well, I'm getting curious now. I might have to start up. Which would you recommend I start with?
Well, I've not watched a lot of any of them, but I would say start at the beginning. Start with Arrow, and breeze through the first season or two, and then when you get to the point when the Flash started, you can start Flash and Supergirl kind of at the same time, mixed in with your Arrow watching, because it's like there's things referenced on Flash that happened on Arrow in the same month in television
Mm-hmm.
time and stuff. So once you get to the point when all the shows are on, you kind of got to watch them in rotation so you don't miss anything or get spoiled by anything. At this point, trying to jump in and start at the beginning, it's a massive undertaking.
I'm sure there's got to be something out there on the web that will show you, okay, here's how you got to watch it.
Right. And they make references, even though it's not officially connected, they make references back to the Smallville series too.
Okay.
So it goes way back.
Wow. Cool. Okay. And then one more piece of TV news this week. Just saw today. This is kind of interesting to me. This week marked the 42nd anniversary of Elvis Presley's death, and Netflix, along with Priscilla, announced a new animated series titled Agent King. And in this one, Elvis will trade in his white jumpsuit for a jetpack when he is covertly inducted into a secret government spy program to help battle dark forces that threaten the country he loves, all while holding down his day job as the king of rock and roll.
Hey, and that's based on a true story too, by the way.
What are you talking about?
You don't remember when Nixon swore Elvis in as like a special FBI agent or something?
Okay,
like,
so
or
that's
CIA agent or something.
Oh, that's right. Yes, and that's so that was the start of it. I got you. Yeah.
Yeah, he was the only man allowed to carry a handgun in the White House. It was Elvis Presley.
Wow. I don't know that. I don't know my Elvis history very well.
Of course, he was one-upped by Waylon Jennings when he met the president and the first lady and was smoking a cigarette while shaking their hands in the White House.
Hey, when you write the Dukes of Hazzard theme, you get privileges.
Yes. I seen a picture one time. It captioned that and it said, "You may be cool, but you'll never be Waylon Jennings smoking a cigarette while meeting the first lady cool."
Nice. One little tidbit about that Elvis show. The showrunner and writer for the show is going to be Mike Arnold, who is of Archer fame. Did you ever watch Archer?
No, I've had some people recommend it to me, but I've not sat down to watch it.
Yeah, I haven't either. So
you know how busy I am. It's hard to work in stuff past 1986 in my rotation.
So if anybody's a fan of Archer, you might want to check that out. Didn't see a time when that was going to be released. So Elvis the Spy. That should be fun. Okay, moving along. A couple Kickstarters caught my eye this week. There is one from a company called New Wave Toys, who has already had successful campaigns for these little mini arcade machines. I think they call them retrocades or something. Anyway, they've got two new items for this line they're calling Replatronics. The first is a 1/6 scale change machine. You remember like the old change machines you had at the arcade?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when I read that.
Yes.
It's just like a change machine.
Yeah, so as you're playing your little, mini arcade games that actually, I think they charge via USB, they're giving you this change machine that's actually a USB hub.
Oh, okay.
So
it makes sense now.
Yeah, so you're basically building your own little mini arcade with these things. So it's got like 6 USB ports in the back, so you can charge up your other little machine. But it just looks cool, man. It just looks like those, change or token machines back in the day, and it's to size to match with those mini arcades.
At first, when I read that, I'm like, why a change machine? But now that you say what you just said, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But I was really thrown off to begin with.
And then the second item that they're doing in the same Kickstarter, it looks like a old portable cassette player, the Hotline 16,000, which was kind of a knockoff brand of the Sony Walkman. It's instantly recognizable when I saw it. But it's going to look like it's a replica, but it's going to be a portable charging bank. So if you've got your phone or whatever that you need charged along the go, you got this looks like a portable cassette player on your belt that you can hook up and charge, or it's also like a wireless charging pad.
Well, that's
I thought it was
cool.
I thought it was a fun idea. And when you press the play button on the thing, you got an LED flashlight.
Oh, I like multi-purpose stuff. Yes.
Yeah. So those are available now. Early bird on those items are $45 and $35 respectively. And that campaign ends September 9th. So you can go check that out. The other Kickstarter that caught my eye was one from Coleco. Now, you remember Coleco back in the day? They had ColecoVision. Yeah, tons of stuff. Well, they've kind of made a little comeback in the last couple years. They've done these tabletop arcade games like I was talking about a couple shows back that were Donkey Kong and Pac-Man. They've got 2 more coming out for Berserk, and then its sequel called Frenzy. And the Frenzy one will actually be a 2-in-1 game, so you get to play both games on that one. And these are really cool. I did a feature over on Rediscover the 80s when they came out with the first campaign, and it's just updated technology, being able to, I think, charge and do all that stuff like we were talking about with the other Kickstarter. They're a little pricey, though. Early bird on these are $79 and $69. Or if you missed out on the first Kickstarter, they still have the Rainbow Bright and Robotech ones available, and you can get all 4 for $275. And that one ends on September 14th.
Well, back to the New Wave Toy Mini Arcade for a second. Is that something people are actually trying to play, or is it more of a, I don't know, a piece that you set up and have to show off? Or
I've seen the 2 facets. You know, people want to play. I mean, I've got ones that will play. They're not quite that small. The ones that, like, that Walmart sells. I've got a few of those, and they're playable. They're large enough that, you know, you can figure out what's going on. Some of these seem to be a little bit smaller than that.
Yeah, these New Wave toys, the mini arcade, the retro cage or whatever, they're really small, and it reminds me of people who build these like Christmas villages. Right, but I want to do it with these things. I want all these mini machines, whether I can play them or not, because there's so many ways to emulate it. You don't need to play on that tiny machine. Right.
But I guess there's just the fact that it can play, that they want to make these things. So
and I like the fact that it's playable, because you can have them plugged up on display, and you know, I guess it has the little demo games playing just like arcade machines do all the time. That'd look cool.
Yeah, and you put like a little G.I. Joe figure up there hanging Friday.
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen that before too. There's people that make like little dioramas with like an arcade background. I think in that same Kickstarter, they have as one of the like throw-in pieces, it looks like a huge mouse pad, but it's large. I mean, it's like the size of what your like laptop would be, I think. But it's that crazy carpet style that they had back in the arcades, you know,
so
with
the set all your little machines on it,
black with the neon designs, and it looks pretty cool.
I have a new project from now through next spring, and that is to build a little tiny mini arcade diorama.
There you go.
Yes.
All right. Moving along, I've got a couple food suggestions for your review channel over there on YouTube. Our Table, right? These thanks to the website Mental Floss I found this week. First, how are you feeling on Spam?
Oh, Spam is the food of the gods.
How would you feel about pumpkin spice Spam?
I would probably feel like I'd been kicked in the stomach. I'm sure that's the kind of churning sensation you would get after eating something like that.
Well, this was funny. Back in a couple years ago, this started as like a Facebook joke, like a hoax that there was actually pumpkin spice Spam. But it's actually coming out September 23rd, official pumpkin spice flavored. I remember Dad like frying up Spam back in the day for like breakfast. That was about the only time I would eat the stuff, when it was fried up and all that. But I'm a big fan of pumpkin spice, so I'm kind of curious about this actually.
Well, treat meat has always been better than Spam, but Spam is like one of the number one foods in Hawaii, so it may do really good there. I don't think I'm going to partake in the pumpkin spice flavor.
No. Okay.
About as funky as I get with my Spam flavors would be barbecue.
Barbecue Spam. Okay. Do they like make official like different flavors of Spam, or you just talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, yeah, they do.
I'm sorry, I'm not in the. It's not on my regular shopping list.
Well, it's not on my regular shopping list either. It's only for special occasions and stuff.
You coming over for Thanksgiving? Yeah, it's Spam, baby.
Christmas. You pin some cloves to it and bake it and put a little sauce on it. It's good.
Okay. All right, the next the next item might be a little hard to come by because from what I saw, they're only selling it from the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile, and it was in New York City this week. They were giving out Oscar Mayer hot dog ice cream sandwiches. Now, here, let me give you what you're gonna get when you get a hot dog ice cream sandwich. You're gonna get the hot dog sweet cream. This is the middle. This is the middle. Hot dog sweet cream with candied hot dog bits. That's one half. The other half is spicy Dijon gelato. So that's the inside, and then you're gonna get 2 cookie buns holding the sandwich together. So you get the hot dog sweet cream with small little hot dog bits on one side, and you get this like spicy mustard gelato on the other side with the cookie bun. How you feeling about that?
Have we got to that point in life that we're out of stuff to eat? I mean, have we got this far down? Candied hot dog bits.
Just give me that.
That just sounds disgusting. Of the two, I think I'm gonna have pumpkin spice spam before I would have hot dog sweet cream with candied hot dog bits.
I saw on you ever see these videos that like pop up on Facebook of somebody whipping up a meal or something, in like 2 minutes? I watched one day. It was hot dog pie.
Oh yeah,
and
I've seen those.
Yeah, you're like blending it up and pouring it in. I can't remember what the crust was. It might have been just like crescent dough or something. Yeah, he sliced it up just like pie.
Yeah, that did not look good either.
Oh my God.
Not at all.
I ate like raw hot dogs as a kid. I loved hot dogs so much. I just go to the fridge. Yep. I'm taking a hot dog with me.
I never did like them raw like that.
I sure did. I don't eat them like that anymore, but as a kid, man, couldn't get enough. And I got the ones, so you remember the ones with like the cheese and the chili in the middle?
I remember the cheese, yes. Yeah, I like cheese hot dogs.
I got the chili ones too, man. And, Mom always got me stuff just to nuke in the microwave. Here's some stuff in the fridge. Make what you want. And so I would heat up those chili dogs. You put it in the microwave, that stuff in the middle was like lava.
Yeah.
Once you got it out of there. But chili inside the hot dog, man. I was all about that as a kid. Let me tell you. All right. Well, moving on. Here's another food story for you. And you actually told me about this one. Pizza Hut. Oh, Pizza Hut.
Put your hand over your heart when you talk about Pizza Hut.
Pizza Hut closing 500 more dine-in locations. From the article I read, I think it was over there on people.com, they've got just about 7,500 locations across the country. Of those, 6,100 are traditional dine-in restaurants, and there's about 1,350 express locations. So it sounds like, from what you were telling me, they're getting away from that dine-in experience altogether.
Yeah, and unfortunately, whether knowingly or unknowingly, they started getting away from it years ago when they quit upkeeping their interior and their service. But that is sad news, because people who know me know that I'm a big fan of the old experience of Pizza Hut. And over at the retronetwork.com, you can find the article. You can search for it, The Glory Days of Pizza Hut, where I talk about everything I loved about that whole experience of going to eat at Pizza Hut.
Yeah. If
they had only listened to me when I first put that together a long time ago, they could have avoided all of this, every bit of it. But I don't know. It's really sad that, and we were talking last week about our favorite department stores. It's the same trend. It's people are just going away from these experiences for easier shopping online or picking up, eating at home, having it delivered from Pizza Hut. And that's probably just a bigger symptom of the whole mobile culture we live in now. People want to avoid interaction as much as possible.
Yeah.
And I don't know. There's something to be greatly missed about Pizza Hut in particular, though, because they had a fantastic experience back in the day for dining.
Yeah. And people I mean, you sit down at a restaurant now and you look at other people. Well, it happens at my table too, but you look around, everybody's at their phones, waiting on their food. They're just not engaged with the whole experience. It's like, where's my food? Let me eat it and let me get the hell out of Dodge. You know, there's no just kind of atmosphere anymore in restaurants.
Right. Well, there's no atmosphere, but I don't get as annoyed at my kids for being on their phone, because if you went to your local Pizza Hut in 1989 or 1990, you would not have been sitting there with your folks waiting on the food. You would have been over at the Mrs. Pac-Man Galaga mini arcade game playing an electronic device. Yeah. At least these days, the kids are sitting beside you and playing an electronic device. Well, so you can at least look over their shoulder. You know? That
is true. But then once the food comes, they're still on the phone. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we would come back to the table after spending all the quarters that Mom gave us and dive into that personal pan.
You never came and got a slice and took it back to the machine?
Nope. No.
You haven't lived.
Nope. My butt was back at the table when that pizza was ready. Or they were coming to get me and drag me away. Let me tell you.
I said what I said jokingly. I was always back at the table too, because that was a big part of the experience.
So. Yeah. That's you know what? If I ever win the lottery, like $200 million, I'm going to open up like a retro mall, and nothing. I'm going to do what Stranger Things did in Georgia, but it's going to be legit for real. And we're going to put a sit down Pizza Hut in the thing. And we're going to put all those stores that they had in there, a Sam Goody, a KB. That's what I'm going to do, man, with my money. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way to spend that kind of money, I tell you what.
Telling you, man. And people would go for it. I'm telling you. Even the franchises that are, you know, what are you doing with my franchise? Yes. Yeah, we're going back. We're going back in time, baby.
Yeah, I need hey, Pizza Hut, I need some of them cool old stained glass lampshades for my new store in your mall here.
Yeah, hook me up. Here's a guy on eBay. Here, just Oh man, Pizza Hut. At least they're coming back with the old logo, huh?
Yeah, he's got that going for
Wah, wah. All right, here's something to be interesting to you as the Super Nintendo fan. I read this week that Nintendo Switch is actually coming up with a Super Nintendo controller for their system. From a Polygon article I found, they tracked down some paperwork, I guess, with the FCC to get this controller approved. I don't have a Switch, but apparently their list is growing as far as their Super Nintendo games and ones from probably the NES as well. So I guess some of the people out there might own Switch. You don't have a Switch, do you?
No, we don't.
Maybe they can tell us what their like retro experience is playing Switch if they've got a bunch of games out there. And that's one thing that gets me. Like I said, you know, a couple episodes ago, I've got the Miss Pac-Man for Xbox One. And it's just weird holding that Xbox controller playing Miss Pac-Man. You know, you're just going back and forth and okay. But part of that experience is having that original style controller. And that's why I prefer these like reproduced systems that still give you that same style controller, or you can plug your old controllers into it and still have that experience on the new televisions, you know. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I thought that was interesting that they're actually making official controllers now to match up with the games on the new systems. So take that for what it's worth. Going on to products, we recommended a couple products on the website this week. HeMan and She-Ra are coming back to DVD with complete series box sets. Coming around on October 1st. You can pre-order those on Amazon. And if you want a quick link and help the Retro Network out, just click on over to our site and head on over from that link to Amazon. They're going to have all episodes of each series in these box sets. Plus, they're going to give you the Secret of the Sword movie. You're going to get the Christmas special. and you're going to get several documentaries. One is The Power of Grayskull. I think this is the one that was on Netflix. And then you're going to get the one called Saturday Morning Legacy of Filmation. And then you're going to get one, Hope, Honor, and Heart, The Origins of She-Ra. So, and then you're going to get some early concepts and illustrations. I'm not sure if any or all of that is new. I think those all have been out for a while, but having it all in one box set, I know I don't have a complete set of He-Man. I've got a couple that were pieced together. I think like the first 10 episodes and 11 to 20, I think those were in these Mill Creek releases. I think I actually bought those at Toys R Us for like $5 or something. But I know they've released the full series before, several years ago.
Right.
And that included, I think that was like the complete, that had like the new He-Man series and everything in it. But this was just the Filmation series for both of them.
Just the classic good stuff.
The classic, yep. $53 each.
That's a pretty good price for all of that.
Yeah. I mean, it's
a good price just for the cartoon series, and everything else, the two specials and the documentaries and all that are just, like you said earlier, icing on the cake.
Yeah, can't beat that.
Now, if they would put a replica Hill sticker on it, it'd be even better.
Yes. Hills. Oh, gosh. Okay, and then speaking of He-Man, I just saw this one today, too. I thought this was interesting. They're coming up with a new comic book series from DC called He-Man and the Masters of the Multiverse. This is going to be a 6-part series, and we'll see He-Man partnering with Prince Keldor, who will later become Skeletor, to take on a force from anti-Eternia that is destroying various versions of Eternia from across the multiverse. Release date is November 20th for the first issue. But, man, have we ever gotten like a Skeletor origin story before?
Just in that cartoon series that came out in the early 2000s.
Okay.
Yeah, because they had him as Keldor in it.
Oh, okay. I've never watched that.
That episode or that series?
That series, yeah.
It's a really fun series. They some new takes on some classic characters. Of course, the art's completely different, but the stories were really good. They had some episodes focusing on like King Randor and the whole subject of ruling Eternia, came up, and modern versions of a lot of characters. It's a really good series. You should check it out.
I'm going to have to do that now. But yeah, I had never, since I never watched that, I never got like Skeletor's backstory. So that sounded interesting to me.
In that series, in the Keldor episodes or episode, I can't remember if it was a 1-part or 2-part, instead of the skull face and hood, Skeletor has like this like black mullet and goatee. He kind of looks like Steven Seagal in some of his late 80s movies.
What was
Except
the one?
For blue skin,
I was going to say the one, what's the one where he's in a coma? He comes out with the beard.
I have no idea.
I can't remember which one that is. Hard to Kill or something like that. Anyway, that's what I'm picturing now.
But with blue skin, Steven Seagal, blue skin equals Skeletor when he was a kid or younger.
All right. Well, moving along to toys now. These look really cool, and I wish I had just a open-ended budget for collecting action figures. But Super 7 is now offering a new 7-inch action figure line called Thundercats Ultimate. And each one of these are going to come with several interchangeable parts and accessories. The first wave of 4 is Lion-O, Mumra as the mummy version, Panthro, and Jackalman. I thought that was kind of an odd choice for the first one, but the pre-order price on these are $45 each. But man, I was looking at the Panthro. Panthro I remember having as a kid. He was one of my favorites. And they've got this accessory that looks like he's twirling the nunchucks like in a circle. Oh man, it looks just so cool. And just looking at all the different accessories, and there's a couple of different heads each one has, and super posable. I mean, these are going to be the best Thundercats figures probably out there. I know Mattel did some kind of in the vein of the Master of the Universe Classics line. I'm not big into the collecting world, So I don't know how these compare to, something like that. But from the pictures that I saw, man, these were looking great.
Well, I can tell you their 1.5-inch minifigure versions look great.
I can too, because you sent me a couple. Yeah.
Yeah. Minifiguresmarket.com. We got some 6-piece Thundercat sets on there. Don't have Jackalman though. Sorry. We got the Thundercats and Mum Ra, but no, Thundercats is a line that it's like He-Man. It's really hard to screw them up visually. Just about any way you want to do them, they're going to look impressive.
This is true.
So, I mean, just with the bright colors and the designs they originally had all those years ago, just lend itself to just fun-looking toys every time.
Mm-hmm. I just watched a couple episodes last week. I was trying to get the little girl off of, I don't know, whatever she was on, Paw Patrol or something, and let's watch some Thundercats.
It's got cats on it.
Okay.
It's got cats and stuff. You're going to like it.
We watched the, oh crap, what's his name? He's like the bounty hunter guy that comes after him and captures them.
Dog?
No, he's got Dog.
Which would be great, hunting down cats. Now that's the crossover we need. Thundercats versus Dog the Bounty Hunter.
Dog and cat, yeah. Man, you could have timed that more. Perfect. Wow. No, we were watching that a couple episodes. Safari Joe's his name. And he's got this like sidekick that looks like a train that talks, and my little girl could not understand that character at all. Is that a train? The train is talking? Okay. Anyway.
Yeah, it's like watching Thomas. Be quiet and pay attention.
Yeah, right. This is the new Thomas. No, I just love, I can pick up anywhere. I don't have to start at the beginning of like the Thundercats series to watch. It's just one of those that each one has its own little unique story, and you get to meet crazy new characters and stuff each time. So I love the Thundercats. It's one of my favorites. All right. We're almost done with recurrent events. We've got a couple more here. On to music. I saw, I guess this Las Vegas residency thing, I know it's been around forever, but it seems like more and more people they get to a point in their career it's like, okay, let's go to Las Vegas for a while. Mm-hmm. Def Leppard started this week, and they're going to be doing a 23-song set for their show, and some tracks that from their albums that they typically don't perform live, you're going to get to see. But this is out. You can go watch some clips on like YouTube this week. And they've got a little 4-song acoustic set in the middle of the show. I've always liked Def Leppard. I had Hysteria, I think, and Pyromania were the albums I had. And I haven't really dove too much more into their discography beyond those two, other than like the pop songs that were on the radio. But I don't know. I like that. I know Aerosmith was out in Vegas for a while, and wasn't Guns N' Roses out there for a while too?
I'm not sure that Guns N' Roses had their own show. I think they were opening for Wayne Newton, but I'm not positive.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, from what I understand, those Vegas residencies pay very handsomely, and you don't have to travel around. You can like do whatever you want all day and say, well, it's time to go do the show. And they do 2 or 3 shows a week, and it pays really good, and they sell a lot of merchandise. And
you don't have to pay all the roadies to set your stuff up every night. It's
right,
already
and you
set
get
up.
you get to design the show the way you want it, and whoever's hosting it is putting the money out to design your set and stage and things. So it's really like, besides getting into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, it's like the pinnacle. You make it to Vegas, you're set for a long time after that. I mean, Garth Brooks, he done Vegas residency for years and years, and Celine Dion for years and years, and no reason to leave once you get there.
Yeah, the Def Leppard show, the videos I was watching, it was really fun. I watched them perform Photograph, and just with the projection that you can do now, they were throwing up little images that look like Polaroid images, actually, of like I guess from their history and the band as they're singing the song, it looked really cool. So yeah, and it looked like a pretty big arena too. I don't know how many people you can fit in some of those out in Vegas, but man, it looked pretty large. So
and you got to think you have a new crop of fans coming in every 2 days. So
right.
It's, instead of going to their city, they're coming to where you're at.
Right.
So they sell. Maybe one day we'll have a Vegas residency where we're doing the show live every day, but we're doing the same show over and over for a week.
Which recording we want to take this week? Oh, we'll take Monday. That was a pretty good show. And yeah, that's our podcast for the week. Do I have to do it without a shirt on?
No, you don't have to.
Okay.
It's up to you.
That's what, excuse me. Every time I watch a video or something with Def Leppard, what's their guitarist, Phil? I can't remember his name. Never has a shirt on. Somebody buy the guy a shirt. Come on.
Well, if I were you, I would start out wearing the shirt. That way you have something to throw to one of the women who are trying to rush the stage during the podcast.
Okay.
So, you may end up without it, but you should start with it.
Maybe I'll just cut it a little bit at the top, and then I'll pull a Hulk Hogan, rip on the shirt.
Yeah.
And then I could give 2 pieces out to 2 adoring fans.
Yeah, and you know how loud the crowd would be when Arsenio was introducing us coming onto the stage?
There's an article right there. The Las Vegas residency set list for the Retro Network. We got Arsenio introducing the show.
Yeah.
Us doing the podcast, Sequel Quest coming out, and
we're going to be having Twinkie dogs there in the 4th part of the show.
We'll douse the audience in milk while they're eating their Twinkie dogs. Yeah, it's all coming together, man. It's all coming together.
Yeah, we'll get there.
All right, here's the anniversaries for this week. Just a couple for us, and then we'll move on to our main discussion. In TV, we've got the 20th anniversary on August 16th for Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Mm-hmm.
I remember when that dropped?
I was working all the time, but I would catch bits of it here and there when I'd visit my folks. But I always wanted to be on that show. I always thought I could do good.
Mm-hmm. I remember when that dropped. That was like appointment television because it was like a prime time thing too. And, they're giving away $1 million and it's just basically trivia questions.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily, the trivia that I can answer, but everybody could kind of play along and it was just multiple choice. So,
well, I'll give you a chance to give somebody a shout out here. If you were a contestant on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, who would your lifeline be?
Ooh, I guess it depends on what question they're asking me. Because I've got several people.
But I think before you went on there, you got to have one or phone a friend. That's what.
Yeah.
You'd already have to have that established. You wouldn't know what category you'd have. But who's the most well-rounded person you know?
Probably.
And you can't say me because you didn't know me back then.
Yeah. So it's got to be a person back then?
Oh, I would get. Well, hell, I don't know. Today. It's up to you.
You're confusing me. I'm going to throw out Chris Tansky, who I interviewed for Batman back in June. He is just a wealth of knowledge, huge movie buff. And back when I was doing the original version of the Rediscover the 80s podcast, I did trivia along with each one. And I don't think I stumped him once with those. So he's just got a lot of knowledge, mainly pop culture, but that would be my phone a friend, probably. Who are you calling?
My phone a friend would be my cousin and longtime great friend, Mango. He is a walking encyclopedia of useless knowledge. And that's the kind of stuff you need when you're on a show like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because you're going to get hit with one of those questions like, nobody can study for this.
Right. Foods that start with the letter Q.
Yeah. Well, that's what just kill me when they get these like super smart people on there, that are like got 3 doctorate degrees. And then you give them a question about like, what kind of car did Heathcliff drive? Those questions would kill me because I'm like, oh, come on, man. And then, you know, like every other question they asked the guy that you were trying to answer, you'd be like way off. But it was that one question that was just in your wheelhouse, you know.
What CB channel did the Duke boys always communicate on?
Yeah. Well, what was the handle for Uncle Jesse? Yeah.
Shepherd.
Yep.
See?
Lost sheep to the shepherd. Yep.
Yep. Lost sheep, shepherd, Bo Peep, and Crazy Cooter.
Oh my gosh. The things we go off on these shows.
That's what makes it good, though.
Yeah, it does. All right. The other anniversary from this week, August 16th, is the 30th anniversary for Uncle Buck, starring John Candy. I never made this connection before. All right, I love Uncle Buck. It might be my favorite John Candy, depending on what day of the week it is, because I got so many. I love so many with John Candy. But it was from this movie that we got Home Alone, essentially. Mm-hmm. That little scene where Macaulay is at the door, and I can't remember who's at the door, if it's the neighbor lady. He's kind of peeping through the mail slot in the door. And that, just from that, I guess, interaction is where they got the idea for Home Alone. I just never made that like connection before. I don't know why, but John Hughes, I guess that was just the inspiration, and he liked Culkin enough as a kid actor to put that story together. So, little useless piece of information there for you. But no, I remember actually watching that in the theater that year, and there's so many good scenes. You know, the mole, the mole scene with the principal or whatever at the school, where he can't focus, and he's going off on all these different types of moles. And when he brings out the hatchet, you know, on the kid.
Mm-hmm.
You know
Uncle Buck, that's a movie I need to watch again. I've probably not watched that movie in more than 20 years.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, I may have a triple feature later tonight.
It's been a while for that too. That was just a fun movie. And the whole scene with the clown at the door, that just cracks. You get in your mouse and you get out of here. I love that. He punches the guy out. Such a great movie. So that should be a topic someday of like the top John Candy movies of all time or something. I could talk about him forever.
Yeah, I've got a few choice opinions on his movies.
Okay.
Well,
are they good or bad opinions?
Oh, good opinions.
Okay.
Oh, John Candy was a comedic genius with body language, facial expressions, and body language. He was a master.
Absolutely. Okay. I just thought maybe you were like wavering on a couple of his, and
no.
Okay, maybe, you know, some of those later ones like Wagons East and whatever. But
Canadian Bacon. That's a good movie.
All right. Well, we'll put the recurrent events away, and we've made it through this week. So coming up, we've got our top 10 movies of the 80s according to our Flick Chart rankings. So stick around for that.
Say hello to my little friend!
Wait a minute, Doc. Are you telling me that you built a time machine? Out of a DeLorean?
Yeah!
Stick around.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
It's in the hole! It's in the hole!
What is best in life? To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of their women.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
E.T. Home phone.
Inconceivable! Inconceivable! Inconceivable!
You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Bueller.
He slimed me.
Get to the chopper!
May the force be with you.
Seize the day.
Here's Johnny.
Nobody puts baby in a corner.
If you build it, he will come.
I'll be back.
I'm too old for this shit.
Wax on, wax off.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
You're hit. You're bleeding, man.
I ain't got time to bleed.
Hello. My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
I am the father.
We have clearance, Clarence.
Roger, Roger. What's our vector, Victor?
Go ahead. Make my day.
Sweep the leg.
Yeah, I got a question. Does Barry Manilow know that you raid his wardrobe?
They're here.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
I feel the need for speed. Ow!
Don't mess with the bull, young man. You'll get the horns.
Wait till they get a load of me.
All right, we are back for our main topic discussion this week, and Mick's been on me for a few weeks now to get on Flickchart. I guess this has been around for a long time, like you said, right?
Yeah, it's been around at least a decade.
Okay. It's a fun little game. I really wish it was an app, and maybe we can support them in that somehow to make it into an app a little bit easier than the kind of the web format that they have. But it's fun. It's just a fun little game. You get two movies that come up in poster form, and you choose which one you like better.
Yeah, and it has options under each movie. If you have not seen it, you can click that, and it will replace it with a different movie. Mm-hmm. And there's a button if you haven't seen either movie, and it'll replace both of them. And it takes these movies that you rank, and it builds a top 100, 300, 1,000, however long you want to keep going with this thing list, and it saves it to your account, and it will bring the same movies back from time to time against other movies. And then if you really want to dial in your list, they have these settings where you can rank only movies in my list, and it will quit giving you new movies it hasn't give you before. And as you rank movies from your list, they'll move up and down based on how many times and what you're choosing it over. And you can narrow it down even further by I only want to rank the top 50 movies on my list or the top 20 movies on my list. Mm-hmm. And it'll pair those off so you can really fine tune your list as what's better than what. And I tell you, it'll put you in a personal quandary sometimes with the movies it gives you. And you're like, oh, how do I pick one? It's like picking between my kids.
Exactly. Yeah, and what I was doing last night, kind of in preparation for the 80s, is you can filter by just 80s movies. Mm-hmm. So it'll just throw up there just 80s stuff. So I went through a bunch last night, kind of ranking back and forth, and then I finally looked back at my top 10, and I'm like, what is Batman Forever doing in my top 10? So you can click on that specific movie, and then it'll give you more against your list that's already built, and you can kind of move up and down based on choices there. That'll give you like 7 or 8. So
yeah, and a little disclaimer though, this is not 100% accurate because there are movies that it just don't pop up unless you purposely search for them, which is another nice feature. You can search for a movie and add it to your chart, and then it'll put that movie against like 6 or 7 other movies on your list, so it knows where to position it on your list when you add it.
Yeah.
But this list, I would say my list is probably, I'm going to say 75 to 80% accurate. There are some movies that I know off the top of my head are not on the list that may actually be in my top 10 that are just nowhere on my chart right now. But it's a pretty good general representation of the type of movies that I like. And I believe your list will probably be the same way, and most people's would be.
Yeah. It's I'd say this one's pretty close, but yeah, there's probably some that just have missed me altogether. And at some point I might just go to like my couple drawers of Blu-rays and look through and just start adding movies that I know are not in the list. because what else are you going to reference by? Well, I'll just go through my collection and make sure this one's in there, and you can kind of tackle it that way. But yeah, this was fun, man. I just spent last night we threw on something on TV. I can't remember what we were watching. I think it was an episode of Unsolved Mysteries. I was just going through and ranking, and here we are. We're at our top 10. We filtered by just the 80s.
You know what? We need a flick chart version that's just television shows.
We do.
That would be fun.
We need a flick chart that's just cartoons. That would be fun.
I have seen that someone is currently making a video game version of flick chart.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So maybe you could do it, by decade or by system then, like arcade or just Nintendo or Sega So, we need more flick chart versions of everything.
Okay. I think they've got like I think I saw somewhere where you can donate. Maybe it's I don't know if it's a Patreon or whatever it is, but I'd be in for it if they're going to do something like that to kind of get off this this kind of clunky format. This is like old school internet right here, man.
Yeah, but it is so nice though. It's a great time killer.
That's the thing. It works. So and that's all you want it to do. So I guess we're going to start in reverse order, and we'll just kind of go through our top 10 here from the 80s, and we'll, I guess, see if there's any that maybe missed one of us, or why is this one so high, or, it'll be fun. And then once we get through our top 10, we'll click over to our unseen list from the 80s, and we'll see what exactly we're missing out of there. And you guys can write in and let us have it.
Oh, yeah. I'll tell you what, my retro cred is going to take a serious hit when we get to the unseen list.
Okay. All right. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Number 10 on my 80s movie flick chart, 1984 Ghostbusters.
Okay. It made your top 10. I'm good with that.
It's in the top 10, right?
Yeah. It's in my top 10.
But probably higher than 10, though, right?
Higher than 10, yes.
Like I said, this is not a 100% accurate thing, but yeah, it's in my top 10.
Okay. Number 10 for me is The Karate Kid.
Really? That low?
Yep. 1984 on that one as well. Yeah, there's, I don't know. There's a couple on here that it could be a little bit higher, but I'm not certain if I can put it higher or not. But it's still one of my favorites. And I still refuse to this day to watch the remake. I will never watch the remake.
No, but I really love Cobra Kai show, though. That's a great show.
Yeah, I wouldn't call that a remake, so to speak. I'm talking about the movie with Jackie Chan and Will Smith's kid. Yeah, I'm not going to be watching that.
All right, number 9 on my list, back from 1981. This is probably not in your list, probably not in a lot of people's list. The Cannonball Run with Burt Reynolds.
Oh, I have seen that. I can appreciate that pick. That's just a fun movie.
And that is dying for a modern remake with modern celebrities and sports figures and all the cameo roles.
True.
That could be a big summer blockbuster.
Now, this not necessarily, I guess it's kind of in the same vein. Back in high school, at the end of every school year, our homeroom teacher, who was also our basketball coach, he would let us watch a movie, and it was only under the premise that he had to be able to show his favorite movie that week as well. And his favorite movie was It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. Have you ever seen that?
That's a good movie. They used to play it on TBS a lot.
Right. So and that's a long movie. It's at least 2 hours. I remember it being like torturous. I just could never get into it. And then they made Rat Race.
Yeah, that was a fun movie.
That was maybe late 90s, early 2000s?
Yeah, mid 90s to late 90s, yes.
Okay, that was in kind of that same vein. And that one was fun. I just saw them both like pop up on, I think it was Netflix this week. Or maybe it was Amazon, one or the other. So they're out there. I don't know if I'm going to push play on either of those. But Cannonball Run has that same kind of go cross country racing, type of premise, right? I mean, it's...
Yeah, you got Burt Reynolds, Dom DeLuise, Roger Moore, Jaws from the James Bond movies, and he's paired up with Jackie Chan when this little technological car that can go underwater and stuff. And you got Mel Tillis and Terry Bradshaw, Tony Danza, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Catherine Bach, Farrah Fawcett. You name them, they're in there. Yeah. Jamie Farr. It's just such a nobody. Maybe Burt Reynolds and Dom DeLuise have a lot of screen time, but nobody else is in that movie for more than like 7 minutes. But it's like a competition on who can outshine who in the movie. Everybody is hamming it up and going so over the top with their part. It's just wonderful. And it would do so well as a remake today that, you could have, I don't know, The Rock and somebody as a team, and you even have Jackie Chan and somebody else. And it's just, you could work a lot of people in.
That would work, I think, pretty well. And then you got those two babes in the Lamborghini, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was could be where I fell in love with the Lamborghini Countach.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah, and then they're in the ambulance, right?
In one of them.
And what is it? The first one that they're in? I can't remember, but
yeah, I can't remember.
Genius! You're racing across the country as fast as you can, and they got it. They're in the ambulance, so that was.
In
perfect.
The other movie, they were in a military vehicle. Burt Reynolds was dressed as a general. And Dom DeLuise was his driver trying to get him to the Pentagon or something. And of course, then you got Sammy Davis Jr. and Dean Martin dressed as priests driving in a Ferrari or something.
Oh, gosh. I need to go back and watch those. Is it 3 they made?
I think so, but only the first 2 are worth watching.
Okay. I'll have to go find those. Cannonball Run. All right. Number 9 for me. 1981, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I'm surprised. I figured that was going to be on your list and higher.
I think it's about right. Just looking again at the other movies that are on here, definitely my favorite among the Indiana Jones trilogy, but just slightly higher than Crusade, because Crusade is really one that if I'm going to pick up one, I'm probably going to choose that one to watch. But the first one was just, obviously it started it all. So I got to put that above it. I don't know. I love the Indiana Jones trilogy. I can watch Temple of Doom too. Some people would prefer to skip that one, but if I'm going to watch it, I'm going to watch all 3 of them. Yes, I'm purposely leaving out number 4.
I'm of the current opinion I could skip it, myself, but there was a guy used to be on YouTube, and you can still find this stuff. I'm not going to say where, but people Google it, you'll find it. He takes movies that he always felt should be in black and white, and he turns them black and white. And Raiders of the Lost Ark was one of the movies, and I swear it is better in black and white. It just feels like it should have been a black and white movie. So
interesting. Okay.
People can search that. It gives you a different perspective. It's like, oh wow, so this was made in the 50s or whatever, and it fits the story so much better.
Cool. Okay.
Number 8 on my list, 1983, Return of the Jedi.
Okay. Yep.
You think that's a little low?
Compared to mine, it is, but I don't know. It depends on if you've got Empire in there as well.
I do not have Empire on my list. I'll go ahead and spoil that.
So you rank Return higher than Empire?
Well, no, but that's where the slight flaw in Flick Chart comes. It seems like I get Return of the Jedi about once every 10 movies, and I get Empire Strikes Back about once every 50 or 75, And I've not taken the time to go through every movie on the list and rank them individually. But I do prefer Empire Strikes Back better than Return of the Jedi. I could swap those 2 and knock Return of the Jedi out of the top 10 and put Empire there and be just fine with it.
Okay. I'm good with that. Number 8 for me, 1987, my favorite Mel Brooks movie, Spaceballs.
Oh.
Yeah. I could watch Spaceballs on infinite repeat. I love it so much.
It is really good.
And it just works. I mean, all of the just glorious Mel Brooks jokes that he puts in there, and him as President Scroob, and even the little bit parts, Michael Winslow as the radar guy, and
yeah,
I mean,
out there combing the desert,
yeah.
You found anything? We ain't found shit.
Oh gosh, so many great lines in that.
Yeah,
it's very good. So that's my number 8.
All right, number 7 for me. We just kind of briefly touched on Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. That is my favorite Indiana Jones movie.
Okay.
I'm a World War II buff, and the interaction in this movie with that theme is pretty heavy. Mm-hmm. Sean Connery was helped make that movie with that character and the way he played it, and it feels like the biggest epic of the Indiana Jones stories.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Just that whole journey, and then you get that little bit of mysticism at the end with the knight, and it just seemed like the ultimate Indiana Jones adventure.
Right, and everything in that movie, everything hit. There was no misses that they put in that movie.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that. And that's what just killed me, because, at the end of the movie, they ride off into the sunset. That should have been it, man. I was ready for Indiana Jones to be done,
Right.
That was just fit it perfect.
And if you wanted to do something else, Indiana Jones, they could have made a better version. I liked it as it was, but the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, you could go backwards and tell whatever stories you want, but you're right. That should have been the last. Everything else Indiana Jones should have been set in a time before the ending of that movie.
Yeah. I've watched some of the Young Indiana Jones, but I can't remember just sitting down and watching the whole series.
Well, I have, and I enjoy it. But, it was made at a time. If it was made now for one of these Disney streaming services, hint, hint, people listening from Disney, with the technology today, it could be such a better series. It could be really, really good, So.
Okay. Number 7 for me, 1984. I'm getting a lot of 84 picks. I remember watching this. I was invited to a birthday party at a hunting camp, and they had electricity there, obviously, because they rented the movie, and scared the crap out of me with the wolf. The Never-Ending Story. I love the Never-Ending Story so much, and I tried to get my kids into it. They're like, that wolf, it looks like it's a total animatronic. I mean, they just could not buy into the puppetry and just the technology of the time with all of the creatures and characters in the movie. So it didn't have that I remember as a kid, and being just totally scared of, I think it's Gamork, the wolf, and just following them throughout the movie. But it's that one's just an epic to me. Loved the story. I can't say enough about it. It's so like part of the 80s for me.
Well, I'm going to lose a little retro cred here. I didn't like it.
Okay.
I never could. I've never watched all of it. I just couldn't get into it. It just didn't appeal to me.
Now, when did you watch it? When do you remember trying to watch it? Back then?
Yeah, I tried. It was in the mid to late 80s at some point. And then I tried it again in the 90s. I just couldn't get into it either time.
Okay. So, well, that's not losing cred if you've seen it and you didn't like it. I mean, I've just got such a childhood connection to it that I've got to put it up there pretty high on the list. So,
well,
anyway.
Now we're getting into the sweet spot of my list. You're a never-ending story kind of guy. I'm this kind of guy. 1980, The Blues Brothers. And actually, you could make a case for this movie being anywhere from 6th all the way to 1st, and I would not argue with it.
Mm-hmm.
I love The Blues Brothers.
It's got to be close to my top 10. I'm trying to find it. It's a little lower, I guess, than what I rank, but I love the Blues Brothers, and it probably wasn't until like that rental era of the early 90s that I really like watched it, fell in love with it. Even some on cable, probably TBS or TNT ran it a lot back then as well. So yeah.
Speaking of the rental era, our rental era started in the mid to late 80s. My Uncle Ernest had a VCR and would rent movies, and since he lived next to us in the summertime, I'd go over and watch whatever he rented with him and my cousin. And the Blues Brothers was one of the very first movies that I watched there on VCR, and I loved it ever since then. Ever since the bridge jump scene at the beginning, when I seen that as a kid, I'm like, yes, that's who, you talk to your guidance counselor and they're like, okay, we're going to talk about what you're going to do when I was like, I want to be on a mission from God. That's what I want to do.
The scene that made that movie for me is the mall.
The mall.
When they're destroying the mall.
That would be a fun article to dissect that scene, freeze frame it.
The stores in the mall. Yeah.
The Lincolns are in early this year.
Yeah. That last one, they're busting through the JCPenney. Yep.
Yeah.
That was great. And what better product placement? It's not heavy handed. You're just kind of strolling through the mall and
yeah. And that was a mall that had been closed down or was closing down, one or the other. And they filmed it there.
Mm-hmm.
So
another John Candy, you could say, movie. Hey, we're in a truck.
I'm pretty sure. Hold on one second. I'm pretty sure the Blues Brothers still holds the records for the most destroyed vehicles in a movie.
Oh, I would not doubt that.
Well, when they made Blues Brothers 2000, they set out purposely to break that record, and someone miscounted by 2, and they came up one short of their own record.
You're kidding me. You're kidding me. Oh, wow.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just remember all of those police cars, and that's just, you can't watch that and not have like a perpetual smile on your face as you're watching all those police cars get destroyed.
Yep.
And they're jumping them into each other, and it was great. Great movie. Good pick. Number 6 for me. Oh, yes. Yes. I could make a case for putting part 2 ahead of this, but it's First Blood. I love part 2, and part 2 was more my introduction to Rambo than the first one, but over the years, yeah, I love First Blood.
Well, First Blood is sitting at number 12 on my list, so it's just outside of my top 10. And I think it feels like a different movie than Rambo 2 or 3 does.
Oh, definitely.
I really, really like First Blood.
Yeah, I like it too. Part 2, oh my gosh, the just everything about it I love. But you can't go wrong. Brian Dennehy, oh my gosh, I love him as an actor. Where is Cocoon? Cocoon is like high up on my list as well. Didn't make my top 10, but I don't know what it is about him. Of course, he's the dad of Tommy Boy, so he made that movie too for me. Just
as much as Stallone did. Yeah, you're right.
Absolutely. Okay, top 5.
Number 5 on my list: National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, 1989.
I am not sure how. It's probably because it only came up last night when I was ranking, but it did not crack my top 10. And it should be easily in my top 5.
Mm-hmm. We will have to revisit this again during the Christmas season, and we will somehow pull all of our Christmas movies off a flick chart and put them in a list. But for now, though, this is my number 5 80s movie. It is iconic, as iconic of a Christmas movie as anything else to me. It is required viewing not once, probably not twice, but at least 3 times from Thanksgiving to Christmas every year.
Mm-hmm.
And like I may have said before, the wife can't sleep without the television on. So we'll put some movie in and it'll play all night. During the Christmas season, I'm popping that DVD in multiple times just to listen to as I'm falling asleep.
Yeah,
it's perfect.
It is. I could listen to just the audio of that in the car and be totally satisfied.
Because I could see every scene in my head. I could just listen to it. So,
yeah, my wife gets annoyed at me because if you watch it with me, I'm quoting along with it, and people get annoyed by that. Unless you really love the movie like I do, you're not going to mind, and you're going to be quoting it along with me, But yeah, people know. You may not know because I don't know how long we've been friends on Facebook, but every it's the Saturday after Black Friday. Sometimes that Friday on Black Friday, I become Jason Grosswald on Facebook, and I changed my photo to Chevy Chase, and
I think I remember that. Yes.
Yeah, that's like ever since I've been on Facebook, like 10 years ago or 9 years ago, whatever it's been, I do that every Christmas, and I do nothing but like Christmas vacation quotes. So, very good choice. Again, I'm surprised I don't have it on here. 5 for me is Return of the Jedi.
A little higher than I had it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you mentioned being at the birthday party and watching that movie. It made me think, I wanted to throw this in here. I went to a guy named Lance's birthday party back in the late 80s, and his mother had rented movies. For those of us who got there early that Friday afternoon, like 5 p.m., it was Raiders of the Lost Ark and Return of the Jedi was what she had picked up.
Nice.
So
nice back-to-back there. All right.
No thoughts on Return of the Jedi?
I thought we kind of covered it, but...
Oh, okay.
I'll even give you my number 4. My number 4 is Empire. So I ranked 4 and 5 were Empire and Return of the Jedi on my list. So,
well, where would the original be if it had came out in the 80s? Would it be right there grouped with them, or higher or lower?
It would be higher.
Really?
It probably is higher on my normal list. Yeah, I mean, Empire is just a little bit higher because I remember vividly being at somebody's house and they had it on, and that was like when I saw Yoda, I was just enthralled. And I don't know, that being like the first introduction of Yoda. The Ewoks, okay. I love the Ewoks. I'm not knocking them at all, but
Don't knock the Ewok.
Don't knock. I need a bumper sticker. Yeah. Don't knock the Ewoks. The Empire is a little bit higher than Return of the Jedi.
I think Empire had a better story, but I enjoyed the visuals of Return of the Jedi more. But the story in Empire was much better.
Okay, so you can give me number 4 and I guess number 3.
Okay, number 4, 1985, Teen Wolf with Michael J. Fox.
Oh, wow. That's high on your list.
It is. I love that movie. It was another one of the original movies I saw on the VCR at Ernest's house.
Mm-hmm.
My cousin Tim and I loved it, loved everything about Teen Wolf. I was a big fan of the cartoon when it came out after that. And Michael J. Fox is up there with me where we talked about Tom Hanks a couple of weeks ago as being one of my favorite. Everything he's in is good. I've always enjoyed everything I've seen Michael J. Fox in. Shame that his health went the way it did in his prime. But, yeah, Teen Wolf really high on my list. It just, I don't know. It's a short, easy. It's one of the easiest hour-and-a-half movies you can watch, I think. It just breezes by. There's no slow spots in it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's those surfing on top of the van.
Yep.
It's just classic 80s movie right there.
I rewatched it probably maybe 4, 5, 6 months ago. First time I had watched it probably in 15 years. And yeah, it was like you said, it's a nice, easy movie to watch. I didn't really, I never watched the cartoon, and I remember watching it more as a 90s rental than anything, really. So I didn't really have that real connection with it. But yeah, I didn't obviously make my top 10, but it's a fun movie.
Our friend Adam here on the Retro Network, I think it was last year, and I think it may have been for RetroCon.
I think it was like 2 years ago. Yep.
2 years ago. So you know where I'm going.
I know where you're going. Yep.
He created that whole costume in the white suit with the fur hands. He was he was Teen Wolf going to the prom.
Yeah.
So that was excellent. And I'm going to go out on another limb here. it's kind of an unpopular opinion, but I didn't think Teen Wolf 2 was that bad of a movie with Jason Bateman.
I had probably watched it like once, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as good as Teen Wolf.
About it. Yeah.
All right, well, moving on to number 3, 1985. This movie, I could watch this movie over and over and over again, which is a great sign for any movie you're putting in your top 5. You have to be able to rewatch them over and over and over again.
Right.
The height of the Cold War, Rocky Balboa versus Ivan Drago in Rocky 4. I love Rocky. Nice. I love all the Rocky movies, but Rocky 4 is my favorite.
I was going to say, if I'm watching a Rocky, it's probably 4.
Yeah.
Out of all of them.
I put Rocky 4. I put Rocky 4 first. Then I put the original Rocky. Then number 3. Then number 2. And 5, I mean, it's always at the bottom of the list.
Yeah. That sounds about right. I could maybe interchange 2 and 3. I
grew to love. Well, I like Rocky 3 so good because of Mr. T and Hulk Hogan.
Right.
But, and there's an interesting scene. I screenshot this about 2 years ago when we were watching it. The wife and I were watching it on the big screen here at home, and they're early in the movie in Rocky 3. They're unveiling the Rocky statue, and they've got the marching band there. And they're showing the drummers, and before you ask, no, he was not farting on the snare drum. But they show the drum corps there. And I stopped. I said, did you see that? She's like, see what? And I rewound it and zoomed in. On the snare drum, it had an autograph from Mr. T. And she said, so? I said, this kid who's there to film this scene got Mr. T to autograph, because it's autographed as Mr. T, not Clubber Lang. So, Mr. T, sir, can I have your autograph? And then they filmed the scene. And I screenshot that and put it on Twitter at one point. But
cool.
My love for Rocky 4 started because my dad was a huge fan. Mm-hmm. And there was I've talked about he traveled a lot, and there was a hotel up in West Virginia headed into Pennsylvania. They're called the Wilderness Plantation Inn. And back in the 80s, there was nothing around it. But back in the 80s, their technology was great. They had this directory of movies in the room that you would call down to the office and tell them what movie number you wanted to watch.
Nice.
And they'd pump it through to your room. Early pay-per-view, I guess. And we would stop there 4 or 5 times a summer. And every time we stayed, we were watching Rocky 4 and eating Domino's pizza. So
probably my favorite soundtrack too.
Rocky 4. That is a great soundtrack. Hearts on Fire and
Burning Heart. Yeah. Yep. Living in America.
Mm-hmm. The epitome of the Cold War summed up in a 91-minute movie right there.
Yep. Good choice. All right. Number 3, Batman, 1989.
Huh.
Yeah, I could...
Not surprised.
I could definitely watch that one on 24-hour loop and go to sleep to it and wake up to it. Yeah, it was just so polarizing, and Batman being my favorite character. I remember, watching the 66 show as a kid, and then when that came out, that just blew my mind. So I still, love it. I'll put it above even the, Batman Begins, that whole trilogy, Dark Knight. I still want to watch 89. Yeah.
Well, it's not on my top 10 list. I liked the movie okay. It just didn't connect with me like it did a lot of people. It was my first drive-in movie experience. We talked about that earlier this summer, but I should have guessed that would have been high on your list just from the way we've talked about it so much.
Yeah, and not like I talked about a Batman Trapper Keeper to start the show either. So.
Oh, well, yeah, that's true too.
All right, 2 to go.
My number 2 movie is on your list farther down. 1984, The Karate Kid. Okay. That movie, I've probably watched that movie, well, not more than any other movie on this list. My number 1 movie I've watched more than any other movie on this list, but it's just a perfect story. From beginning to end, the whole, I ain't going to say dorky kid, but it's like he's getting picked on and beat up on, and Mr. Miyagi character was so perfectly written and played by Pat Morita, and Ralph Macchio was just perfect as Daniel. And it speaks to just how good this movie was and how much it resonated, the fact that 30 years later we got the sequel series, or 35 years later, I guess, almost. So I love that movie. I just watched it. Well, we talked earlier in the show. I own 3 copies of it on DVD. And I just watched it 2 weeks ago. So.
Have you seen the video that puts Daniel as the bully in that?
I
just
believe
kind of from that perspective.
Yeah, from the way they cut it. Yeah, I believe I have seen where somebody done that. It's
really good, and if you watch it now, and having watched Cobra Kai, it's perfect. Because they that's kind of a role reversal, in the series, and
right.
It's fun to watch now, but even with that show under your belt. So, yeah, can't say enough good about the Karate Kid. Number 2 for me, I'm curious if it may be number 1 for you. Back to the Future is number 2 for me.
It is not number 1 for me.
Back to the Future, I remember getting it as an early rental, and even in the upcoming VHS podcast, we're going to be talking about just some of our memories and such. And now if I want to watch Back to the Future, I would rather watch it on VHS. Just because it just watching it in that format versus, digitally enhanced and all this stuff they have now, I don't know. It just kind of takes me back, and I kind of prefer to watch it that way in all of its graininess.
Well, I love Back to the Future trilogy. I actually would put number 2 ahead of number 1 myself. But, it's not on my list. And there again, it's a victim of just not coming up frequently enough on here to be voted higher. So,
okay.
Well, before we get to my number 1, I'm going to run this by you. Do you want to just take a stab at what my number 1 might be?
Ernest Goes to Camp?
No, that's a legacy choice. That's not on the list. No.
I don't. Was it on my list at all?
No, not so far. No. All right. Well, I won't make you sweat it out anymore.
Okay.
Number 1, going back to 1983, Ralphie in A Christmas Story.
Oh, okay. So Christmas Story above Christmas Vacation.
Yes. And I was on the Christmas Story bandwagon before it had a bandwagon. Before I moved in 1988. Before I moved, A Christmas Story was shown on our local Fox affiliate at some point. This would have been like 86 or 87.
Mm-hmm.
And I just fell in love with it then. And I kept talking about it. And somehow we caught it coming on a second time. And we recorded it. And I still have that VHS recording. I think it's from 1987. With all the commercials from that Fox affiliate. Nice. So I go all the way back to then. It didn't really get popular until the early 2000s. But it is, I am, besides their nostalgia for the 80s and 90s, I just sit and think and look and wonder at all the era of the 40s and 50s.
Mm-hmm.
And that movie is it captures all of that. And I don't know, it's just like a simpler time, and it's what I think of Christmas, and we do so much. It's like that. Take the kids out shopping and go to the Christmas parade. And we have a Christmas dinner, and no presents until Christmas morning, and it's just a perfect reflection. And I mentioned earlier the guy who done black and white movies.
Uh-huh.
The black and white version of A Christmas Story is 10 times better than the color version. It 100% feels like it should be a black and white movie when you see it in black and white.
Interesting. I'm trying to find when they started airing it 24 hours on Christmas Eve. Looks like
it would have been very late 90s or early 2000s.
1997.
Yep.
It began on TNT. 24 Hours of Christmas Story. So it probably wasn't up until that point that I, really fell in love with the movie. When they started showing it, and then you come back to it, or you just, go about your day, get your Christmas presents open, and then you running through the channels again. You see it's still on. Okay, I'll watch it through this part. And
well, I tell you, we do 48 hours of A Christmas Story
here
at our house, because we're cord cutters. We've talked about that. But I'll put the DVD in our living room on the morning of Christmas Eve while we're making cookies and all this, and put it on repeat, and it won't come off until Christmas night is over. I mean, we watch it. Well, it's on for 48 hours here. So
nice.
We love it, or I love it. Everybody else has to deal with it because I love it.
I like putting on. Did you have the Christmas Yule log experience on the TV at all in your area?
I grew up with an actual fireplace, so no, I missed out on that.
See, we didn't have an actual. We didn't have the fireplace, but we had WPIX out of New York who started that, and that's like a tradition for me to find somewhere. Sometimes it's on. I think it is on YouTube now.
Yeah, the actual WPIX version is.
Yes. So we'll put that on while we're opening presents on Christmas morning. Or let me take that back. I'll put it on. And then it'll come off after we're done. But I don't know. It's just that tradition of having that on in the background.
It's also on Amazon Prime too. I'm pretty sure.
They've got a couple different newer versions of it too. But anyway, good pick. I like that as a number one. That's good. And if you haven't guessed by now, number one for me is Ghostbusters.
Yeah, I was thinking that it hadn't popped up on your list yet.
Yeah, it's I'm pretty sure it's the first one I ever saw in the theater as a kid, because I don't specifically remember the occurrence, but from everything that I had that year, from the 45 record to the light blue back off man, I'm a Ghostbusters sweatshirt. I was enthralled with the movie since the beginning, and it's just always been so high on my list. And I'm not sure where it's going to be on my regular list, but it might be up there close to the top, if not number one, by the time we're all said and done here. So, yeah, Ghostbusters all the time.
Well, you talk about having that merchandise. This was another movie that I watched on VCR with my Uncle Ernest. So I was 2 years removed from the release of the movie, so I missed out on the merchandise. I was really big into the merchandise when the second movie came out because, I love the first one, and I'm like, oh, here comes the second one. But yeah, I missed out on the whole hype around it when it first came out. I was oblivious to its existence until I watched the VHS that day.
Yeah. I've taken the oldest when it came back to theaters for the 30th. That was a fun experience. And I don't know. I love it. And it's just tied back to that, memory of watching it early on and having all those things around. We didn't have like action figures when it came out. It was just strictly merch, T-shirts and mugs and keychains and whatever else you could put that logo on, So
yeah, you didn't get action figures until the cartoon series came out, right?
Right. Yeah. So yeah, it just purely logo based, and the song being so popular as well just helped keep that and build that momentum. I think it was released maybe in the summer of that year, and it was probably still in the theaters, months later. So when things ran back then. But yeah, Ghostbusters, number one for me. All right, well, let's take a quick look at our unseen movies list.
Oh gosh, you're worrying me here now.
Let's just you want to just run through our full 10?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't want to stop too long to have you chastise me for not seeing these. So yeah, we'll just run through them pretty quick.
Well, I'm trying to figure out how I guess this is based on how they're ranked with everybody else is how they rank them on here.
Right. Yeah.
So,
because the first one I'm going to mention is actually averages out as number 21 movie of all time across all users on Flickchart.
I see that. I see that.
So that sounds like it'd be a very popular movie, 21st all time across all Flickchart users. But I have not watched The Shining with Jack Nicholson.
I have seen it once, I think. And that was probably like a cable version, like an edited version. I don't think I've ever sat down and popped in a tape or DVD or whatever to watch it. The Shining.
Tell you what, I'll run through my whole list right quick, and then we'll run through yours.
Okay.
This one is where I'm going to lose retro cred. Number 33 all time Bruce Willis in the original Die Hard. You'd think as much as I like Christmas movies, I would have watched Die Hard, but I haven't.
You haven't watched Die Hard, okay?
I've never watched that. I love Die Hard with a Vengeance. I've not watched Die Hard 2 either, by the way. I started with
I've
Samuel
seen
L.
Die Hard
Jackson.
2. Yeah.
Next on my list, Blade Runner. I missed. Oh gosh, this one's painful to say out loud. Aliens from 1986. Now, Full Metal Jacket is on here. I've seen most of that, but I've probably clicked haven't seen it because I haven't watched all of it.
Yeah.
Raging Bull with Robert De Niro. This last one here is really painful to say. I've seen scenes of it. I know what it is. I've heard so much about it. I don't feel like I need to watch it. The Breakfast Club. Exactly. I know, right? I know. I've not watched The Breakfast Club.
Wow. I don't know what's more egregious, The Breakfast Club or The Matrix.
Well, there's one more here.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to remedy this one soon because I've been really wanting to watch it recently, and that's Rain Man. I've not watched Rain Man either.
I didn't really care for it.
Really?
Yeah. I've seen it. I remember watching it on cable. So, that's hit or miss.
I would say The Breakfast Club is more egregious than The Matrix because I've had longer to have watched it and haven't.
True. I really don't have too many egregious ones on here. Like my number one is Raging Bull, which is 101 all time. So I don't have anything in the top 100 at least that I've got to yet on my unseen. Now, some of them you mentioned, Aliens. I remember watching that probably once or twice. What else did you mention on yours? I can't remember. But anyway, here's my list. Raging Bull, The Thing, John Carpenter, My Neighbor Totoro. No idea what that is. There's a movie called Ran. A movie called The King of Comedy, Robert De Niro. Grave of the Fireflies.
You've never seen Grave of the Fireflies? That's like
Never.
number 14 on my list. I'm kidding. Never heard of it.
A movie called Brazil. Number 8 is Amadeus. Never seen that. Number 9, Castle in the Sky. Number 10, Hannah and Her Sisters.
Yeah, Hannah and Her Sisters, a Woody Allen movie.
Now
you should not be ashamed for not watching a Woody Allen movie.
Okay. Now here, I should maybe have done 10 through 20 or 11 through 20 because we get Evil Dead 2, Do the Right Thing, American Werewolf in London, Purple Rose of Cairo, The Evil Dead. Evil Dead 2 is ahead of that. That's crazy. Yeah, that was some more on my top 20. So I don't think there's anything too Raging Bull. Okay, whatever. I'd rather watch Rocky. If you're watching a boxing movie. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, of course, they that's another movie I want to watch. It came out just a couple years ago. I don't know what it was called, but it was De Niro and Stallone as aging boxers who get back in the ring for another fight, but this time against each other. So that would probably be pretty fun to watch. It's less than 5 years old.
Okay. All right. I guess that's it.
So everybody head over to flickchart.com and make your own list if you can. It's a great way to kill some time.
The Breakfast Club. Gosh, dude.
Well, like I said, I've read so much about it. I've seen scenes. Everybody talks about it. I've read so much about it. If I feel like I have seen it, even though I've not seen it. So maybe that's why I've just put it off so long.
Okay. We'll see if you can remedy that.
Yeah, I'll pencil it in here in a few years.
I'm not going to say I watched it from the beginning. Some of these that are rated R, I just was not allowed near until probably the early 90s when I'm in high school. I guess I didn't care, back then when you're renting movies, because I'd go in and rent R-rated movies all the time before I was 17, 18. So. Yeah, so I didn't get into that one, and I probably didn't watch like the unedited version from, just watching on cable all the time until sometime in the 90s. So it's not like it's always been with me, and I've watched it since I was a kid. So I can see that some of those just kind of miss you when you're younger, and just if you never, circle back to them within, 5 or 10 years when you're old enough to watch R-rated movies, or at least your parents
they pass you by.
You do, yeah. So, okay. Well, that's our list. We'd love to hear your comments on that, and just tell us if you've got a list going on Flickchart. Maybe you want to have some movie confessions you want to make to us. We'd love to hear those at TRN Social. So we will come right back to wrap things up after this.
I came here to make the battle. I came here to make the battle. I see a lot of changes the way I felt about you. I see a lot of changes. If I can change, everybody can change. I came here to make the battle. I came here to make the battle. I see a lot of changes the way I felt about you. I see a lot of changes. If I can change, everybody can change.
All right, we are back to wrap things up, finally. It seemed like we've been going a little bit long, but yeah, it's all in good fun. And speaking of fun, we've had some this past week on the network, articles and podcast-wise. So tell us a little bit about what we might have missed or coming up.
Last week, do you remember Green Stamps was an article that I had on there, and I'm only mentioning it first, not because I did it, but because it hit first last week. I had a lot of memories about green stamps and my mom collecting them. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you should definitely go check it out, especially you newer folks. I don't even know. There is not a modern equivalent to green stamps. No. But Brandon was back with another retro rerun review on Who's the Boss. Eric had another Thursday threesome. Those are always fun. I say always. It's only the second one, but both of them have been really fun.
I was mad I didn't get that one either. I should have known that one.
And Brandon had a look at WWE SmackDown's 20th anniversary. And, of course, our episode...
that was Kevin.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Our episode last week dropped of the Retro Network podcast. Sequel Quest guys dropped their sequel to Time Cop. So... and this coming week it's not really a theme week, but there are some connecting pieces, and I'll let you tell about half of it, but I'll tell about the first half. Stacy is back. As you're listening to this, it is probably already dropped on the site. A piece called Glow in the Dark, How a Late Night Ladies Wrestling Show Taught Me Girl Power, where Stacy takes a look back at her memories of the actual original Glow wrestling program. I'm going to be putting a piece up this week looking at some of the comic trends of the early 90s, back during the speculator market. I'm going to be looking at things like the holographic covers, variant covers, special issues, all the big events where people were trying to capitalize on these shock events and things. So you lovers of early 90s comic books, look for that.
Cool.
Of course, we got several podcasts dropping this week, don't we?
We've got pretty much a podcast every day. Today being Tuesday, we got this new episode. Wednesday, I'm trying to debut our first TRN Talk podcast, which is all about VHS memories and collecting. That will be mainly Adam and Chad from the Horror Movie Barbecue going back and forth. I was in on it some, but as I mentioned in the show, I was more or less sitting in the back seat with my head out the window for most of the show, and I would poke it in when I when I had something to say. But those two guys have collected VHS tapes for a long time, and it was some memories too in there of growing up and our connection with VHS and renting movies and so forth. So that's going to drop hopefully tomorrow on Wednesday. And hopefully that series will keep going. And anytime we need to open up the mics, any one of the members of the Retro Network, doesn't have to necessarily be me or Mick. I'm going to let them have at it too. If they just want to get on and talk about a certain subject, we're going to leave that TRN Talk podcast to basically do that. So that's going to drop Wednesday. Thursday is going to be our Glow Season 3 review. And this will be the current season on Netflix. We're going to have, I think, 4 people on that roundtable review. So be looking out for that. And then Friday, Sequel Quest is back with another Rewind episode on Jupiter Ascending. That sequel will come out on Friday of this week. So we got 4 days in a row of podcasts for you to listen this week. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, keep people entertained in whatever fashion they like to listen to these shows.
Absolutely. Just a couple shout outs. We said last week, just let us know you're listening if you're out there. And I had a few people get back to us. Sean Johnson, who I had met through what was the old Throwback Network podcast. He chimed in. He's been listening. He said he loved the department store episode. I wanted to give him a quick plug. Him and Rob O'Hara do a show called Throwback Reviews, and they did one on their malls as kids. Just a bunch of nostalgia in there. He mentioned that he was from Buffalo. He lives near Buffalo and grew up there. They had Hills, Ames, Kmart, kind of the same that we did. So he got a real good kick out of that episode that we did. And then Brian of IC Robots, he's always giving me feedback. Quick plug to him, icrobots.com. He's got a bunch of podcasts that have been going on for a long time. He's got one called the Toys R Us Report, and just lots of good nostalgia over there as well, and current stuff. So go check him out. But he just dropped a quick line. Love this week's episode, guys. Keep up the good work. And then over there on Facebook, we had Anthony Great, which we're going to hopefully get on the show thanks to his support over on Patreon soon. He's the one that runs, we call him Tony. He runs retrodays.org. He's always commenting on Facebook. Rusty Van Oy, that's your buddy, right, Rusty?
Yeah, Rusty's a friend of mine. He
commented also on Facebook to that episode posting. So thanks everyone for that feedback, and we love doing this, man.
Got another shout out to another friend of mine and a friend of the show, Tiny. I've mentioned him a time or two. I talked to him the other day, and I was asking him about, hey man, you still enjoying the show? And he filled me in a little bit on some medical issues he's been having, and he's like, yeah, I'm having to travel every day for tests and treatments and things. And he said it's making the time go by on those long drives he's got. He's listening to everything on the network. And
nice.
Just wanted to shout out Tiny and tell him we're thinking about him and glad he's enjoying it and hoping we can bring a little joy to his stressful world that he's currently going through.
Absolutely.
But somehow I missed my buddy Rusty's comment. I'm going to have to go look that up. That got right by me.
It was on the comments on our show posting to Facebook there this past week. I'm trying to remember what he said. It was just something real quick, but hey, it doesn't have to be a book. You're right. Just, let us know you're listening. You appreciate the show, and I'm glad we can put some smiles on those faces out there.
Yeah.
We definitely yuck it up a lot, but it's fun.
If you want several smiles on your face and to hear a lot of yucking it up, you got to get over to Patreon page and sign up so you can hear the outtakes episode that we just dropped this week, because it is quite fun.
And I'm going to keep that as something we do at least probably every other month, just depending on how much material and how long we record.
Well, we've got maybe an episode's worth of outtakes just from this recording today so far.
This is true. All right. Well, we appreciate you guys listening again, and go out, connect with us, TRN Social, at Yesterdayville, at RD80s on Twitter. We're out there on Twitter the most, but we've been trying to, throw some things up on Facebook and Instagram as well, mainly. So go find us there, and man, have a great week, Mick.
Yeah. My daughters tell me that Facebook is for old people, so maybe we need to focus on that, because it'd be people our age that would remember the same stuff we do.
Oh,
so.
Yes. Yeah.
Not to make anybody feel old, but that's what my kids tell me. Oh, Dad, Facebook's for old people.
I get the same thing. My oldest, he's now old enough to technically have his own Facebook page, and he's like, why do I want to be on Facebook? So
we need to get into the Snapchat market. That's where everybody's at these days, according to my kids. We need to crack into that. So
I don't know about that.
But anyway, it's been fun once again. Hopefully we do it again next week and many weeks after.
Yep. All right. You have a great week, man.
See you.
Thanks for listening to the Retro Network Podcast channel. Make sure you listen to all of the great podcasts we have to offer right here in this feed. If you enjoy our channel, please give us a 5-star rating in your favorite podcast app. Connect with us on social media by following TRN Social, and visit the retronetwork.com website for your daily retro fix. Come back next week for another episode of the Retro Network Podcast.